I would like to call to order this meeting of the Ripon Area School District. And tonight we have 7 members of the board who are present. And we would like to begin with our affirmation of public notice. This meeting of the Ripon Area School District Board of Education has been properly noticed in accordance with the open meeting law and state statute 19.84 and related legal references. We would also like to state our statement of district vision, one of Wisconsin's finest school districts fostering excellence for all through innovation. And first up tonight, we would like to begin by recognizing our state FBLA participants, and we have a number of them who are here with us this evening. 28 of these students qualified for state FBLA, and of those students, 12 have qualified for nationals. And Sherry, would you like to share a little bit more for us?
Sure, and I'm going to actually have them come forward and introduce themselves after I give my little spiel here. So yeah, we had 28 students that competed at state this year. That was the second most we've ever taken. And out of those 28, only 3 events did not place in the top 8, and that's a record for us. We had 6 groups finish 6th, we had 2 finish 5th, and then everybody else was in the top 4 other than the 3 that didn't place in that top 8. So what I'm going to have them do, and I'll start with Claire at the end, they're going to tell you their name and what event they competed in while they were at state.
My name is Claire Lipke, and my event was social media strategies, which I did also with Caroline Ruby and Layla Hine.
My name is Oliver Roper, and I participated in digital video production.
My name is Jonathan Minchow. I also participated in digital video production.
My name is Ariana Arnfeit, and my event was website design.
My name is Madeline Tobin, and I competed in sales presentation.
My name is Maggie Danstick, and I participated in sales presentation.
My name is Adam Banerjee, and I competed in securities and investments.
My name is Justin Mildebrand, and I competed in publication design.
My name is Allison Edmier, and I competed in graphic design along with Lillian Schramm and Maxwell Belling.
My name is Kenny Yeomans. I presented in publication design and the local chapter annual business report.
And so most of the students, you can participate in one competition, but there's also chapter events. So Hannah mentioned she was in 2. One of them was a chapter event. So at state, there's 4 or 5 different chapter events that we can participate as well as the individual event. And Hannah's took 2nd, our other chapter event took 6th, which was our community service project that we did when we collected the toys at Christmas time. So this group, I'm very proud of. We've never had 12 qualify for nationals, so I told them they'd raise the bar in terms of taking that trip, and it's going to be fun because we haven't been able to go for 2 years now. The last 2 years have been virtual. So just in the planning phase, for me, getting my head wrapped back around the whole process of what I have to do to get us there has started, and we're getting things lined up and in place, and we're going to have a parent meeting when we're done here so we can get started with the paper trail that we need to take care of and all that good stuff. So I'm excited for them, looking forward to our trip to Chicago this summer. And I'm just hoping that this year when we go to Chicago, it's a little bit warmer. When we went to Chicago for the last national event, we're going in June, beginning of July. We all packed short sleeve shirts and stuff. I think when we were there, it was like 45 and 50 degrees the entire time we were there. So we bought sweatshirts, we took blankets out of the hotel when we went on the boat rides to stay warm. So I'm hoping this year it's a little bit warmer. But I'm proud of this group. They did a lot of hard work this year to raise that bar, and looking forward to most of them returning next year. We're not losing too many of the group. A lot of them are underclassmen, so it should be another fun year next year. So looking forward to that. And then I also wanted to mention that Justin finished his year of being the Wisconsin State Vice President. He finished up his year of serving that at the state conference, so he was recognized at the end of the conference for completing that service as well. And he's my first full-term state officer that we've had in Ripon since I restarted the FBLA program back in 2011. So I wanted to recognize his hard work with that as well.
Congratulate you. We're so excited. And awesome that it's a close convention too. Congratulations. Guys will be busy here.
Actually, just get these to share.
Yeah.
She'll figure it out. Congratulations.
Who else is this?
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Hannah,
Congratulations.
Adam.
and that's all that's here.
Okay.
And then Bailey Walker.
Congratulations. No, that's all right.
Bailey.
Congratulations.
Bailey, yes.
Here you go, Sherry.
I will take care of y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys.
And thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank you.
having us.
You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you'd like.
You won't twist your arm. All right, next up, we wanted to recognize one of our state forensics participants. That would be Anya Duffy.
Hi, I'm Anya.
Oh.
I'm a part of the forensics program. I do a 10-minute original oratory speech. So my topic was actually how humans are inevitably evil because we're linked to intelligence, and intelligence is linked to cruelty. So it's a really fun speech for 10 minutes. So yeah, I went to state. I placed pretty well. I placed 7th out of, I do believe, 40 participants. I am going to the National Forensics Competition in Washington, D.C. over Memorial Day weekend, so I'll miss graduation, unfortunately, but I'll still cheer on my upperclassmen. I'm a junior, by the way. I forgot to mention I'm 17, and my coach is Paul Weagle, our English teacher here. Yeah, so that's my story.
How did you pick your topic?
I just had to come up with it randomly, and it kind of just occurred to me after I read this book. It was called Animals in Translation. I actually cited in my speech, where it talked about how dolphins are actually serial killers. It's true, they murder porpoise babies for fun. And chimpanzees have a long history of killing for enjoyment and cannibalizing infants. And I noticed the connection between cranial capacity and intelligence, and obviously humans have a long history of war, so once you put them together, it makes for a pretty interesting speech. So, congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And good luck.
Thank you.
You move on.
Awesome. Thanks.
Pigs are up there too with intelligence, and so I'm curious. That's, I'm gonna have to look that up tonight.
Next, we would like to take a moment to recognize our Ripon Area School District bus drivers. And at this time, I would ask if we have any bus drivers who are here, if you could please stand. And let's show them our support and appreciation with a round of applause.
We thought it was very fitting, especially given all of the complications with the bus transportation over the last number of years with COVID and the shortage, to say thank you for your flexibility and everything you do for us. We have Todd Carpenter here. He is our Lamers Terminal Manager. And if you would introduce the drivers that you have with us, it's a fraction of your group. We so appreciate you being here. We got to see the larger group last week because we had our monthly staff development session with all the drivers.
As I mentioned, there's been challenges, and I appreciate the school working with us. We've had some trying moments, but we've got through them. And also, Mary touched with the training. We appreciate the training for our drivers on special subjects. I know my drivers are coming to me and going, oh, this was great, or hey, could we possibly talk about this? So we're working on lists. So I'll let my team introduce themselves. Start here.
I'm Eric Kosek. Been with the Lamers for 11 years now. I'm also the mechanic. I drive quite often. I enjoy getting out and meeting with the kids. And it's a lot of fun. It gets me out of the shop.
My name is Gary. I'm from the corporate office up in Green Bay. I'm just down there helping out the folks here at the Ripon Terminal here for the time being here until we can fill in some extra routes here.
Part of the challenges and our solutions.
I'm Tanya, and I've been here for a year.
Richard Yankee, and I started driving in 2011.
Thank you all so very much. And please extend our thanks to all of your colleagues as well.
I can't run this show without you guys, so thank you.
Thanks again. Appreciate you being
Have a
here.
wonderful evening. Thanks so much.
No, let me just double check one more time. Make sure somebody didn't slip in while I wasn't looking. Nope.
Okay, and at this time, we would typically go through written comments or visitors' comments, neither of which we have. So we will continue forward to the adoption of tonight's agenda. So at this time, I will take a motion to approve the adoption of the agenda's order of items.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, Gary.
While we're voting, I just make a comment. We don't usually vote on this. We don't have to vote on this. If there are no objections or no requests to do it, we just move on. So we can save some time.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, David. In that case, seeing as there are no objections, we will proceed forward. Next up, we have announcement of contributions to the district.
So Steve Segemeister and the Oshkosh Community Bike Program donated a Ripon 140 tricycle valued at $2,000, as well as some donated labor to repair the 3 other trikes that we have. And this donation was made to our Barlow Park Journey Special Education Department. So we're very thankful for that. Sue O'Brien donated over $250 to the Ripon Education Scholarship Fund in honor of, or memory of Tracy O'Brien. Betsy Heffernan donated just under $600 by not accepting payment for school board meetings and treasury stipend for the 2021 school year, as did Andy Like. So we're thankful for those donations and appreciate everyone's time and service.
Yes, thanks again for all those donations. Next, we have our RHS Student Representative Report. We do not have our student representative here with us this evening, so we will proceed forward to consideration of approval for the 2022 through 23 Medical Advisor Agreement. And I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, David. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Betsy. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the vote.
Just extend our appreciation to Dr. Like for all of her extra care and work as we've navigated through COVID. She's joined us for a number of board meetings to provide information, background, and research. So very much appreciated.
Yes.
Is anyone getting a voting button?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I'm just waiting on the two of you.
No. That works.
Still having issues, Tom?
Oh, it's right through.
You got it.
All right. We have 6 in favor and 1 abstention. The motion passes. Next, we will consider approval of the local agreement as a replacement for the current charter contract for Journey Charter School. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Is there any discussion? David?
I just have a question. If this is going to be now the basic school at Barlow Park, why do we need anything for it at all? Why isn't it just now just run by the school board and not by a separate organization?
I think one of the and I can let Tanya speak to that, but one of the governance council's wishes was to be able to continue to operate the school as it has. It's been successful doing that and still have the ability to move forward and operate as it has. It wouldn't have to, but it would allow the board to honor that agreement, and I think that's the change in contract is coming in that spirit, that they're not asking for the contract to go away, but rather shift it by removing those state statute changes. And that is the one thing in the language that came from the governance council to what's in this document is not extending the agreement out 3 years, but extending it out to where the other charter school agreements end, because the board had made the request to kind of keep all of those agreements together just as a matter of practicality.
I guess my other question then is, I know that we said before that Tanya was reaching out to people who weren't in the charter schools. Anything come of that? Are there people, were there any people who are not happy with the situation?
And we did have 3 legacy families that expressed some discomfort with it. And I think it's mostly just not understanding that a lot of the curriculum we have adopted over the last few years has been project-based. And so really now that's going to change. The families that struggled, they just hold very tightly to tradition and wanting that traditional school in place. But also recognize that having one classroom with kindergarten, first, and second graders in it was not going to be ideal. And so in having that conversation with them, most of the families gave me a second choice. So if it's going to be that kind of classroom, then my second choice is this. But I did call every family.
Any other questions or concerns from the board? Hearing none, we will proceed to the vote. All right, and that motion passes unanimously. Next on our agenda, under personnel, the consideration of approval to hire professional staff. Would somebody care to make a motion?
I move to approve hiring Jessica Magdons, I'm sure I butchered her name, as the RHS agricultural teacher, and Rachel Hicks as a 7th grade social studies teacher for the 2022-23 school year as presented.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom.
Can I pull it? Did you say social studies teacher?
That's for you, Randy.
Oh, that was true. So I was half listening.
Did you get that on
scratch
camera?
that from the camera?
I'd like to play that back.
Yeah.
So did I say that wrong?
No, you're right.
You're right.
You just cut out halfway through.
That's not
Just listen, we're gonna go back 5 minutes.
I can understand the alarm rate. Wait a minute. All right, we will proceed to the vote unless anybody has any comments or questions. Great, let's vote. And that motion passes unanimously. And our next agenda item is the consideration of approval for professional staff transfer. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, that works out. Thank you, Tom and Betsy. Any comments or questions? We will proceed to the vote. And that motion passes unanimously. And next is approval of items 9.2 through 9.8 of our consent agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion on that?
So moved.
Thank you, Andy.
Seconded.
Thank you, Betsy.
There's an additional resignation, correct, Darlington?
Any questions, comments? We'll proceed to the vote. And we have 6 in favor and 1 abstention. All right. Under possible upcoming action items, we have a number of them. First, we have materials adoption for K through 2 social studies. There's a couple of attachments. I hope everybody had the chance to peruse through.
I don't know if anyone had any questions about that. The recommendation is for K-2 staff to adopt the same social studies materials that our 3 through 5 teachers are currently using, which are very inquiry-based and align beautifully to the new social studies standards. So we are really excited to be able to recommend those materials for next year. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Thank you for all your work on this. And I know you slowed it down a little bit just to provide some more time, and that's why this is coming this year versus last year.
It was important. Literacy and math were definitely a huge focus across all grade levels, but we just needed that extra time to make sure that that was the right fit for us. But we're confident it is, so.
No comments or questions?
Teachers here for the social studies?
No, not my social studies people. You weren't social studies with me.
No, not anymore.
Originally you were, but yeah.
My only comment is that I understand the memos and they make sense to me.
Good,
So
that's
thank
good.
you.
And it's nice to see the differentiated readers
Yeah, of
scores.
course.
That most students are able to access the information.
I'm just not moving because I'm on the next agenda items too, so I'll just take that for the bit.
Well, thank you for your work with this, Chrissy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And then next, continuing with Chrissy, consideration and approval for reading teacher certificate program and mathematics specialist tuition reimbursement. There is a memo attached, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, hearing none. Next up, we had the consideration and approval for summer school contract modifications. Any additional comments or questions from the board?
This is the same thing that we've been doing for quite a while, isn't it?
It is. The only difference is that our credit rescue courses we're going to be running those for 3 weeks this summer in a little bit different structure, and we wanted to provide an opportunity for our high school teachers to still be eligible for some sort of incentive. So we're offering that half personal day instead of a full personal day, which equates to the time that it would be for the full summer program.
And are we finding people?
We are, yes. Quite a few of our staff will be returning. We have done some hires at the elementary as well, but are excited about some qualified candidates and may potentially even end up being hired full-time. We never know. So.
Great, that's good to hear. Thank you, Chrissy. And then next, consideration of approval of Student Services Administrative Assistant job description. Thank you, Chrissy. Did anyone have any questions on anything within that job description?
Is this a new position, or
No,
are we we're just putting in?
Yeah, we've got a few
official?
more job descriptions that we're working through just to make sure
That's
we
what I
have
thought.
one for every position.
Okay, thank you.
And that they're updated. Someday we'll have that nice organizational map with the hyperlinks to the positions and it'll be really slick. Then I can retire. I'm already retired, so I'm pacing myself.
Yeah, there we go. So unsteady one's race. Thanks for the question, Gary. Following that, consideration of approval of alternate ed license tuition reimbursement. Were there any questions on that document?
We've done something similar with other hard-to-fill positions.
And then next, consideration of approval for 2022 through 2023 student fees.
None of them increased. None
Correct.
decreased.
Right. Jonah, correct, they're all staying the same?
Yep,
The fees?
everything's staying flat.
Okay.
And there's, of course, the explanation for food service and all that.
Yeah, what's the surplus balance that we have there?
It's quite high right now. I'd say it's 350,000.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Pretty straightforward. Thank you, John.
And a lot of that is because of the federal programs we've done.
Yeah, it's almost entirely due to that. We were running like a $20,000 to $40,000 surplus without that federal reimbursement, but right now the federal reimbursement is helping by giving us so much more revenue than we normally would for our paid students and our reduced price students, especially. So,
All indications that will go away for next year.
yes, I believe so. Some states are taking some states are moving forward individual plans to continue it on at the state-funded level, but I haven't seen anything from Wisconsin, and I've done several searches over a few weeks, so yeah, we'll see where we are.
Thank you, Jim. And then next, just a number of policy-related materials that we'll be discussing.
Or not.
Yeah. Or not over the next 3 months, though.
Yes,
yeah,
but all upcoming updates to various bylaws and policy revisions.
Anyone on the committee that wanted to speak to anything, or just some of the?
Yeah, I do. Most of these are technical corrections or wording, non-substantial wording changes, but ones that we thought were more consistent with how we wanted the policies to be worded. But the board might want to look at policy 2414, which is in item 32. 11.8, and that one is on health, human growth, and development. That was, the wording of that one was so strange and convoluted that I think the administrative team, we asked the administrative team to just start over again. And I think they did a good job.
Yeah, with our existing policy to go
Yeah,
back.
with the existing policy, the way that Neola wanted it worded was just,
confusing at the very least.
yeah, it wasn't good.
There
So,
were a couple policies like that where they almost explained the purpose of the policy more than that clear language.
yeah, so that one to me was the only one that might be of interest, I think, to the board.
There was good conversation among the policy committee about that one in particular.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Now, 6146 to the post-issuance compliance for the tax exempt bonds had a lot of additional language that wasn't really necessary to get to the spirit of the policy. So there was a lot of language that the committee didn't recommend taking in collaboration with Jonah. So.
Yeah, I think Jonah and our bond advisor did a nice job of simplifying, greatly simplifying.
Down to one
those.
sentence addition, so that was good. They need to be readable too.
Yeah, I don't want to put anybody asleep reading through bylaws and revisions. Next, we have our superintendent reports. Mary.
And just to point out as we finish our legislative session here, in terms of legislative updates, there were a number of education bills that the governor vetoed. So I know everyone received updates on those, but just looking through those, we'll obviously continue on those. Just kind of keeping an eye to see if those come back in another form here in the next session. And then as Gary said, there's a number of technical policy and administrative guideline revisions that came from Neola, and those are listed under superintendent reports because those are very small, you know, whether they're grammar or small word changes, they don't change the policy at all. So those go through in just one meeting and are listed there.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, thank you to the policy committee. Was it 3 times we met to go through this batch? So, appreciate your work.
So Mary, is it expected that the legislature will try to override some of the governor's vetoes?
I don't know. Sometimes they're just in the spirit of kind of trying to see what might be possible or what might happen, and I'm not hearing a lot of buzz. I will be later this week at the spring superintendent's convention in Elkhart Lake, so I'll get some updates too to see if there's anything that they think will move forward because of this.
And I don't believe that's possible strictly based on party lines that could happen, but everything can change in November, so we'll see.
But just whether they'll come back for any further conversation, I don't know. But they're done as of now.
And then next we have curriculum department highlights for April. Chrissy, is there anything that you would like to share with the board?
Just lots of testing.
It is testing season.
There's lots of other good things down there too, but it's definitely, we are immersed in testing right now.
But keeping your head above water.
We're trying.
Good.
And there is the literacy inquiry that's moving forward, which
Yes.
has brought some good conversation and discussion.
Absolutely, and we will be bringing more information to the board about literacy inquiry when Jill does her report this June as well. So we look forward to sharing the results of that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Chrissy. Does the board have any questions for Chrissy on anything related to the curriculum highlights? If not, we will then proceed to business-related reports. Jonah, what would you like to share with us?
The general fund budget is, holding up well. Probably do a revision next month with just, final adjustments to the budget with different things for spending, and there's been savings in some areas and more spending in others, and we'll try to have a revised budget next month to maybe take advantage of some of the extra that we could use in different places and stuff. Trying to think if there's anything in particular. We have more revenue at this point than last year because we were able to claim our ESSER 2 revenue and received, I think, all of it at this point, or maybe nearly all of it. And so we didn't have nearly as much ESSER 2 funding last year. And so anyways, the revenue is a little bit higher at this point compared to last year for that reason, but we won't continue to stay that much higher until we get to the very end of the school year and get our open enrollment tuition and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. If anybody has any questions, we can talk more about it.
I do have one, Jonah.
Yes.
Under expenses, business administration, 1920 is about 2.1 million, and then last year it took a drop, it was like 1.9. It's back up to that level was 1920 this year now. So it's like a $300,000 drop last year. Do you know what it was?
A couple of things. One of them is transportation. So all of our transportation expenses go there. Okay. And so we are running now at full capacity with transportation costs. We're running a full school year. Even last year we had reduced transportation days. We've also had, I'm trying to think what else is in there that might be affecting that. Transportation is a big one, but utilities as well. Utilities is coded there, and our utility expenses are up a ton compared to last year for natural gas prices. When we don't have school, the heat gets turned down all day and we have energy savings, and now we have weekend events again, so we're running it sometimes 7 days during the week at normal heating rates. And so anyway, so utilities are a factor in increased expenditures. That's one area where we probably don't have enough budgeted this year that we'll probably, as we do a budget adjustment next month, we'll probably say, okay, so we're going to probably end the year here higher than what we thought at the beginning of the year because of the price of natural gas. But yeah, I don't know if I'm trying to think if there's anything else in particular, but those are two big ones: transportation, utilities. Even just having our custodial wages are included in that as well. And we're running full days with our staff, so if somebody's out, we have substitutes. I don't know, those are just some of the things I can think of off the top of my head. But we are not doing anything crazy, it's just normal, ordinary things that are costing more.
Sure.
So I just want to figure out where the best place to ask this question. I guess I'll just ask it here. Speaking of things that are crazy, a lot of school districts around the country have been forced into experimenting with 4-day weeks. So longer days but 4-day weeks, and they've saved a lot of money. But I don't know why they've saved a lot of money. I imagine a lot of them are rural districts and they save a ton on busing. I'm just curious if that's actually something that, as we're worried about the near future, kind of falling off a cliff a little bit financially, if that's actually something that we ought to investigate. What would we actually save doing that? What would be the downside? What would be the upside? And I guess I'm asking the question, do you have any idea that would say, no, don't bother to look at that. There's no way we'd ever save enough money to make it worthwhile. Or if it actually is something that we could think about as an outside-the-box solution to our problems.
I think it would save a ton of money. I don't know that would be best for education, but I think it would save a ton of money because you could probably, if you were forced to have one less day of cleaning, you could have no buses, like you said. Utilities would be, 20% better savings.
But presumably, we'd have something like Brave going on in one school building on the day that we weren't meeting or something like that. I mean, I can see all sorts of ramifications of it. I haven't run into any school district that said, no, this has been academically a poor thing for us to do. That the reviews of it have been quite favorable so far, but it's a limited sample size. So I just thought it's worth throwing out there as something. Tom?
I would presume that you would have a longer school day then to.
Yes.
Our kids struggle with the current school day at our level. It's a long day for them.
And so it might have to be modified at different, you know.
I think you'd have to get more creative with it than just adding on time to the days to make up for that.
Yeah, and there's clearly other issues that would have to be, you know, any of the extracurricular activities and all sorts of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Or you would have a full day when something's going to be done. But I'm just throwing it out there because I think we tend not to think too far outside the box. We tend to tinker around the edges. And we end up, I don't know, not sure we end up always making the best decisions that way either. So.
I know when we did our review of calendar, that was one of the calendars that was talked about and looked at in support of professional development. And I know there was almost panic on the part of teachers thinking about not having that contact with students. And I think we know just from what's happened with COVID, what happens when we don't have students in school with us on that day. And I know, like you said, with Brave, we've offered Brave on the days that we haven't had sessions this year, but when our high schools run, it's allowed families who aren't able to get to school to utilize the bus. So even if you offer programming on that day, I think you'd start to run into some equity issues, that the conditions for students that aren't at school are varied, and the support they might have at home is varied. And those that would be able to access the Brave program might be dependent on busing. So
Yeah,
those might be things we want to look at too.
I can understand. I just think it's a really big issue that if we want to look at it, yeah, there's lots of things that have to be looked at. But 5 days is really, there's nothing special about 5. I mean, you can make the argument that 6 would be better than 5. And you can make the argument that 4 is better than 5 because it gives a better work-life balance for people and all sorts of things. I think that a lot of those issues are issues of habit more than anything else. And we see the downside of the change and we don't see the upside of the change. But I don't know that I would want to do it. I mean, I'm certainly not advocating it. I'm just really suggesting that maybe it's worth looking at because we do know we're going to run into financial difficulties and I don't see them getting better in the future unless the state makes some big differences in how they award money. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Thank you, Joan, for all the information. Appreciate it. And then next we have our various school operations reports. Does anybody have any comments or questions on anything shared? Again, I would just like to thank each of our schools for sharing those highlights. We always appreciate looking through them and seeing what's going on. So thank you. Keep the highlight reels coming. And that will now bring us to adjourning to our executive session. Would somebody like to make a motion? Thank you, David.
Second.
Thank you, Andy.